All right, so I'm back to working on the Jonsered 2149. We got the new piston in, so now I'm working on duplicating the machine work that I did to the piston. And I figured I'd just kind of bring you in and show you what I'm doing to duplicate it. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but it's what's got to be done. So here's the old piston. We got a new piston in the lathe. I've already started machining on it, and I'm getting really close to being done. And I figured, you know what, let me turn the camera on. So let me go ahead and kind of show you what's going on. Here's the old piston that we're replacing. And the reason you see those gouges in it is because I was working on finding, because we put a taper top in it, I need to duplicate those angles. So if I had to toll too far one way, it would gouge in up here along this. If I had it too far the other way, it would gouge in like this. I needed it to be perfect in order to create this taper that I cut. So there it is. You can see kind of the angle. I just kept playing with it until I had it pretty much duplicated as close as I possibly could. And now I'm working on cutting the front of it off, creating my taper. Now, the question is, how far do you go, right? So, you know what I mean? How much material do you remove? So I'm just using my calipers, and I'm measuring from the bottom of the skirt to the very top edge. And I'm going to machine the other piston to the same dimension. And it should get me pretty freaking close. So that's all I'm doing. And then if you've seen the previous video where we used sandpaper and so forth to get our final tweaks, that's basically what we're going to do. And if we end up in a position where we need to take a few thousandths, I mean, if there's 2 thousandths or something I got to take off the base to get my squish number, then I'll do it. But this is what I'm doing here to duplicate it. I'm just using my calipers and everything. I'm measuring from, the bottom of the skirt, which it's easy on this. I got my depth gauge setting, so I can go right up against the chuck to the very top edge. And I'm basically duplicating that measurement on both pistons. So as long as the wrist pin position is exactly the same spot, we should come out pretty much perfect. But if it is different by a few thousandths, we'll have to make a couple of tweaks, with the combustion chamber and everything. So I'll let you know how things progress. All right, I just did my squish check. Should come up at 20 thousandths of squish. My exhaust number is exactly 98 degrees, which is exactly what I had it at on the other piston. And believe it or not, I did that on my first try. Now, I still got to polish the top of the piston, but other than that, we're ready to move on to the next step. So let me get that back out of there, get the top of that piston polished, and we'll move to the next step. All right, there she is, polished up. Now, whenever I checked the squish, I checked it at different points along the taper, and just to see how close we were matched to the combustion chamber, and it was spot on 20 thousandths the whole way across. So I don't think I'm going to have to do any final tweaks to the combustion chamber. I think we'll be able to move on from this point. So let's get ready for the next little modification. All right, for the next mod, it's going to be right here. We're going to cut more out of the top here, but it's only going to be right here at this spot. So when the piston's at bottom dead center, about half, maybe a little more, of this material right here is sticking up into the exhaust port. I'm going to remove some material right there, work it smoothing her out, make it look nice and everything. We're going to try to get that to match a little closer to the exhaust port. You got to be careful that you don't get too close to the ring, because you will literally rip the top of that piston off if you get too close. So we got to be careful with that. I'm going to take some. I don't know how much I'm going to take, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to take a little bit at a time and just look at it and make sure we're at a spot that we like. Now this is this mod, so even though I set it at 98 degrees, this mod will change my exhaust number. But at this point forward, I'm not too concerned about it. If I end up at 90 degrees after I'm done removing this material, then I'm at 90 degrees. All right, this is that mod I keep talking about that you kind of lose your ability to four-stroke. I've done this a few times, and every time the saw just, it will not four-stroke unless I'm tuned extremely, extremely rich. But otherwise, she just, I think, personally, I think it helps it wind out in the RPM a little better. For one, the exhaust duration is more, but as far as, I don't know, the duration is more, but in some ways it's like partially still kind of running at 98 degrees, but I don't know. I think you get kind of an idea though. It's just the timing that's a little off. I'm not changing the entire exhaust port, making it the whole thing higher. This will help to save some of that compression that I would lose if I took the whole exhaust higher and all that stuff. I'm hoping this helps save some of that compression because, I still got the volume of the whole piston. So, I don't know. It seems to work on some and it doesn't on others. So far, I like it. But let me get to work at doing this little mod. So, there's that little mod I said about. I went a little too far at the combustion chamber. So, I try to keep it within the squish band area. I took it a little bit further, but that's all right. I mean, it's not the end of the world. But that's what that mod looks like. And we'll go ahead and throw it on the saw here. And I'll tell you how much that 98 degrees changed to. What do you think? Do you think it was a drastic change? I think it was a decent amount. You know what I mean? All right, can you see it? Look through that hole. You see the little bit of light through there? That's where our exhaust is opening now. And I gotta zoom you out. All right. That's where we're at. So, now, for the next part. All right, so there's our final number. We've started at 98 at the exhaust before that mod. Now it's at 92. The intake is sitting at 80, which I typically run a little bit more than that, but I'm not going to take any more from the intake unless I feel like I need it later. We can always come back into it later. If I take it now, how do you, it kind of sucks putting it back because then you're a JB Weld and all that stuff. I'd rather just wait, we can always take it apart later. And the transfers are at 118. So I kind of set the transfers up with the 98 roof. And I kind of ignore what my number is after that little mod. I just kind of build it as like a 98 roof build. Then I do that little mod is like I'll find a little tweak at the end. And whatever I end up with blowdown and all that stuff is what I get. So next step is to take it inside, clean it up, and start putting this thing back together. So that's where I'm headed. I'm going to take it all in, clean it, and come back out, start assembling. Now, I do have one thing to do. It's on the flywheel. Where'd I put it? Where did I put my flywheel? Where did I lay the flywheel? I just had it in my hand. Oh, it's still on the saw. I was checking the squish. I had to put the flywheel back on. So, remember earlier I said the flywheel was hitting the cylinder? Can you see those holes? Probably can't see it too well, but there's a witness mark where those holes were bumping the flywheel. I'm just going to take them to the pelt sander and smooth them out. That's all I'm going to do. So that should give me enough clearance that I shouldn't hit the side of the cylinder anymore. But now I took some off the cylinder as well. But we were bumping the side of the cylinder. I got to do that yet. And I'll just take care of that during the assembly. I'm just going to toss it on the belt sander, touch that spot real quick, and we should be good. So let's get this thing cleaned up and start assembling. All right, welcome to my kitchen sink. I want to show you this. So look at how the water is coming straight down in, basically like it's coming from, the flow from the crankcase. And I'm getting into that Bridgeport. piston, look how it's actually flowing through the cylinder. How she's really wrapping around there. Kind of see that? I'm kind of flowing straight down in, trying to keep it pretty straight. This is difficult. Then you can see how she kind of wraps around the cylinder. And this isn't under pressure. I wonder what she'll do whenever she's actually under a couple of pounds of pressure. You know what I mean? But, yep, that's why I put that Bridgeport in there, is to help wrap her around like that. All right, I got her mostly assembled. Still got a few things to do. The cylinder, the piston, all that's on. The carb, the intake, all that's done. Starter's back on, the clutch is back on. I'm just at like the muffler and a couple of little tweaks, and then I'm ready to fire it up. I'm hanging it up for tonight, so I'll bring you back in tomorrow, probably whenever I'm getting ready to start it. It's just, bedtime's in like the next half hour or so. I got work tomorrow, so I'm just gonna stop where I'm at and I'll wait till tomorrow. You know what I mean? So, alrighty, bring you back in a minute. It's the next day, and I'm getting ready to attempt a first start on this saw. I didn't buy any aftermarket air filter parts, so I'm gonna have to run the stock little air filter. I mean, all this port work that I did and everything, I mean, I'm gonna be choking her down pretty good, unless I can find some parts laying around that I can swipe up and get this thing to work. You know what I mean? Want some aftermarket air filter parts. But I ain't got that far, so for now, we're just looking to see if she'll run, because when I got this thing, I never tried to start it. So, yeah, let's see if this thing will even run before we worry too much more about doing other stuff. So, yeah, the carburetor, the intake, all of it is still at factory. I haven't done anything as far as modifications are concerned, and that's probably going to hold her back pretty decent. So, we're about to find out what happens. So, what do you say? We go ahead and let's see if this thing will start. Alrighty. Alright, I got a bar on here with no chain. That's just so I can set the chain brake. And I want to give it a little prime. Couple squirts in the carb. Switch is on. I don't have a choke set, but I do have the high idle set. So we'll start with that with the compression release. Alrighty. Give her another quick prime. Alright, let's give it another quick prime. Alright, we're trying the same thing again. This carburetor may not work. Alright, yeah, she's pretty obvious. I primed her enough times. She should have easily fired up by now. So now I'm going to start looking around and see if I can find another carb. I got some parts laying around. I'm going to see if I can find something that'll as close to a direct swap as possible. So I don't want to get into a whole lot of modifications right now. You know what I mean? So let's see what we can find out. We're going to make another attempt. The only part I could find is a new metering lever diaphragm. And well, it's not even new. It's out of another carb. And I don't even know if it's going to work. So that's all I could find. We might need to do a full-blown carb swap. The only way to find out is to try it and see what happens, right? Let's go. All right, we're going to make another attempt. I replaced both the fuel line and the impulse line. And on the fuel line, I found that that's the exact pinch point where she kind of goes through this section right here. That's exactly where that happened. Now, it's possible that I did that whenever I ripped the fuel line out. So, you never know. We're going to try it. Let's give her a prime. See what happens. All right, so she's running. I think it was the fuel line all along. It's a good thing too, because I really didn't feel like going through all the carburetor stuff and trying to modify this thing for a whole other carburetor or nothing. I can tell you, on the good side, I was able to lean it out and get it a little over 17,000 RPM. A little bit, and that's free revving. I have it tuned for 16.5 though, and that could be a little lean, it could be a little rich, but I got her tuned for 16.5 right now, and we'll see how she does in the wood. Now, I'm not going to do any cutting on this video. I'm going to heat cycle this thing a few times before I put it in the wood. So we'll just make another video of the cutting. But yes, she is a running saw at this moment. Now, I can already tell that this thing is struggling on the air. It's like it's got the choke partially on. It wants more air, and I am going to have to figure some stuff out to get a better air filter setup on this. So that'll be coming in the future. Just for now, we're just going to run it like with the stock air filter setup. She'll probably gain some whenever we get this air filter setup, swapped out. And we may go ahead and carb swap this thing. I don't know. We'll see. Throw something a bit bigger on there. But that's where we are for now. Now this bar you're seeing on this is the bar I'd like to run on it. I don't know if that's going to be the one I'm going to run. Just because I don't know if I have a chain for it. I do have a Husky bar over here. It's like an 18-inch, I think, Husky bar. So it's like a new Husky bar. We'll probably throw it on if I can't find a chain for this bar. So that's kind of where we're at. Right now, I'm gonna heat cycle it a few times, get a bar and chain on it, and all that stuff, and we'll give it a go. Now, did you notice how easily the saw was overtaking the chain brake? it wasn't struggling very hard. So either the chain brake's weak. I think the chain brake might be a little weak. This is probably a common thing for these saws, but hey, you know, it does overtake that chain brake pretty easily. Oiler works good. She's puked oil all over my shoes and everything, so oiler's good. So as of right now, no issues are popping up, except one. The on-off switch is not working at all. So we'll have to figure that out. Yeah, she's not functioning at all. I mean, at the switch itself, it looks fine. Oh, you know what? We're missing a piece. We're missing a piece to the switch. There should be another, is it another? I don't know, but you know how there's one little metal prong that comes out of the switch? There should be, whenever you hit it, you hit another metal prong. That second metal prong is gone, and that prong should be ran to ground or something. But yeah, there's that second half of the switch is missing. So yeah, that's probably why we ain't got no on-off switch. I'll have to figure something out there. I might have a part saw sitting here that I can steal that off of. So we'll take a look. But yeah, as of right now, the only problem is we don't have an on-off switch. And the muffler, she's not as ugly once you get that metal plate on the front. But I already talked to Charlie. He said he'd do me up a muffler mod. A pretty sweet one. So we probably won't see that until Sawfest. So he'll probably give me that muffler at Sawfest, and then, you know, after that point, I'll be putting it on. I won't put it on at Sawfest and go through all the tuning. And that's if this saw is there. You never know. We may not have this saw there. So as of right now, she is running now, and we'll catch you on the next one. We're going to aim for wood next. Hopefully she cuts.